And as that pressure mounts on the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to end the war in Gaza, the war has revived a global push for Palestinian statehood. More and more countries seem to be pushing Israel to end the war in Gaza by backing statehood for Palestinians. And countries that were once considered to be the strongest allies of Israel are backing Palestinian statehood. Australia is the latest to join the growing group. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese announced that his country will recognize Palestinian state during the United Nations General Assembly meeting in September. Listen in to what he said.
Today I can confirm that at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September, Australia will recognise the State of Palestine. Australia will recognise the right of the Palestinian people to a state of their own, predicated on the commitments Australia has received from the Palestinian Authority.
Australia joins a growing list of countries, with the UK, France, Canada making similar moves. This means 3 of the G7 countries will be recognizing a Palestinian state. In fact, New Zealand, Malta, Finland, Portugal have also raised the possibility of backing statehood for Palestine. So far, total 148 countries formally recognize the Palestinian state. Much of the world, in fact, already backs a two-state solution for the Israel-Palestine issue. But with France and the UK joining in, 4 of the 5 UN Security Council members will be recognizing a Palestinian state. And in total, 3/4 of the UN members now support Palestinian statehood. People around the world have been carrying out marches demanding an end of the war in Gaza. From Istanbul, Turkey to Santiago in Chile, the voices demanding the end of the war are growing louder by the day. Quoting, "Gaza, you are not alone," echoing through the streets of Barcelona, while quoting, "We are all Palestinians," was heard in the Greek capital. And not just on the global front, Netanyahu is facing growing calls to end the war in Gaza from within Israel as well. Frequent marches and demonstrations taking place in Israel, and the released hostages have also joined in. They are calling for protests against Netanyahu's much-touted Gaza plan. Despite global and domestic pressure, Netanyahu remains adamant, it seems. He has vowed to wipe out Hamas from Gaza and has already laid out a victory plan, saying that Israel will win this war with or without international support. He claims that about 70 to 75% of the Gaza Strip is already under Israeli military control, and the remaining 2 Hamas strongholds will soon be dismantled. Francis Macron has condemned Israel's Gaza plan as a path to permanent war. Italy's defense minister has said Israel has lost humanity on Gaza, but Netanyahu says his Gaza plan is the only way to end the war.
5 principles for concluding the war. 1, Hamas disarmed. 2nd, all hostages freed. 3rd, Gaza demilitarized. 4th, Israel has overriding security control. And 5, non-Israeli peaceful civilian administration.
And with us on the broadcast this minute is Lieutenant Colonel Daniel L. Davis, military expert and host of Daniel Davis Deep Dive, with us from Virginia. Thanks very much for being here. Let me just begin by asking you for your comments on what we're seeing happening, the pressure that's building on Benjamin Netanyahu to end the war in Gaza, and also the growing support for Palestinian statehood.
Yeah, listen, I based on what you just showed, Netanyahu saying that he can win it with or without international support. Now, he's just wrong. He cannot. And that, first and foremost, means the United States, both diplomatically and militarily. Without the uninterrupted supply of ammunition and weapons, intelligence support, cash, and all kinds of other support, this war cannot continue on. That is a fact. And if he wants to try it, I guess he's open to that. I hope he gets a chance, because it is definitely not in American national interest to continue to support this. It's not even a war. I don't think you can genuinely categorize it that anymore. It's more a destruction of the Gaza Strip and the destruction of the capacity to sustain life within it now. I mean, that the images you're showing on the screen right there show this. Many other images do the same kind of thing. This is not a war against Hamas per se anymore. It's just a war against the people that are still living there. And militarily speaking, when Netanyahu thinks that he's going to win the war by those 5 points he just showed, that's simply not borne out by the evidence. In fact, what I have been arguing from the very beginning of the incursion into Gaza in October of 2023, Netanyahu had set himself out on a military path to achieve a political outcome, which is the peace and security for the people of Israel, that would not work. In fact, we've seen it not work so many times, and the fundamentals were there all along, and they're even more graphically displayed right now, because however many actual Hamas people you may have killed, they have been more than replaced by the surviving men of these families that continue to be killed in large numbers, innocent people. They now have no choice in their culture but to rise up and avenge their lost loved ones. And why would they not? And that's so predictable. So the number of so-called fighters, and whether you call them Hamas or just angry Palestinian men or some other new category, they are going to continue to be against the Israeli people. So you're never going to be able to kill your way to success. And if you don't, then what are you going to do? Because I think it's an accurate statement that Netanyahu is set out on a path for permanent war. And I don't see how that serves the people of Israel, definitely doesn't serve the people of Palestine, and doesn't serve the interest of any of the Western world.
To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.